Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. And today I want to jump right in this. I don't think we need any pageantry or fanfare at all, because my guest today is, I'm going to see if I can get this right. I didn't even practice this or look at it. I think just out of memory. We have Dr. Frank Kern, attorney at law, Indian chief. What was it?
Chief engineer at NASA, retired.
Chief engineer at NASA, retired. You know what? That made me think. I've long thought that NASA, because I live in Houston, I visited NASA. I've been there quite a few times, and I've long thought that NASA, the whole space program, is really just a lost leader for that gift shop there. Is that you behind that as far as the marketing?
My role at NASA, unfortunately, is largely remembered as the guy who left the gas cap off that one space shuttle. So my retirement from there as their chief engineer wasn't necessarily voluntary. It was a sort of mandated because they felt like that was a grievous error. And I don't know where they got that from. But, when you have a fake title like that, I guess you're supposed to fake know what you're doing. And sometimes it backfires. Well,
that's the rule. And that's kind of what we want to talk about today is, a lot of things that people do unnecessary in the world of marketing. And, maybe 2 years ago, I would have said internet marketing. But I'd like to get your take on this, because over the years, everybody's asked you, the president of the internet, you've done your state of the internet, addresses, letting folks know how the internet is progressing and people are doing business on it. But do you even feel that you need to put the word internet before the marketing today? Because it seems like, the internet used to be someplace that people would go to, but now it's almost like the internet is something that people take a break from. It's so much part of the day. So do you still put a big emphasis on internet in the marketing? Because you're just a marketing guy. I mean, you understand marketing beyond the wires. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I understand the direct response pretty well. And I think the internet's just a media. So the term internet marketing has so many definitions. I mean, within some circles, it's essentially synonymous with business opportunity, which is kind of the segment that I like to avoid personally. And then, of course, it has a definition of marketing and selling stuff on the internet as well. And I think it's really just no different than newspaper marketing or direct mail marketing, with the exception of we can use multiple modalities to communicate. I think the internet is really the only media where you can get video, audio, and print to someone, oftentimes within the same promotion, with really no significant difference in expense to you, the advertiser, which is awesome.
Yeah, well, it's definitely changed the lives of a lot of folks for sure. And you being one of them, being a kind of a guy that figured this stuff out early on, because it wasn't that you've been pretty transparent about your background and where you came from, what you did. No special powers, no magic dust that fell on you. You were a guy that was struggling sales out there, chugging along. To make money selling. And, the one, job that I know that I've heard that you've had and heard you talk about is selling. What was it? It was credit card machines, but it's actually credit card processing, right? I mean, that had to be a sexy job.
The credit card processing was essentially a means to get the machine sale.
Right. And this wasn't internet.
Oh, no. Good Lord. No, it was door to door.
Yeah.
And I was terrible at it and hated it, because no one had invited me to come. I would just show up. So, you know the deal. You're in business. So you're in the middle of something and you have some kid in his 20s walk in trying to sell you a credit card machine. You kind of want to immediately get rid of him as soon as possible. So that was my daily working environment, which is what drove me online. In fact, my first to use the term internet marketing venture was to try to sell credit card processing online. This was in 1999, so it's before it was so saturated. And the whole reason I did it is because I didn't see the internet as a vast opportunity or anything. I saw it as a means to maybe make sales without having to be personally rejected by people as frequently. It was easier to be rejected by email or something, than to have them in your face. Say, get the hell out of here, all that kind of stuff.
So that's what I love about the story. It wasn't that you recognized the internet as you had a crystal ball as to what it was. You saw it as a way that, okay, here's a way that I don't actually have to talk to people. Here's a way that I don't actually have to hear people say no. It's a much easier door being slammed in my face than to do it in person, right? It was more of a kind of a way to avoid that pain, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I didn't even think of the potential, how many people could be reached. It was literally just, well, I would rather have them tell me to screw off by email or simply just not respond than be, verbally abused and thrown out of business establishments that I wasn't invited to in the first place.
Right. And so when you were doing this, because you've certainly evolved over the years, and when I first discovered Frank Kern, I don't want to say you didn't have, but you had a different panache than what you have now. Was that your kind of a look back then, or is that while you're still out there trying to conform and look the part to do business?
It depends on when you're talking about. I've always just I've really never given it any thought, just wake up in the morning and start working.
And go out and start selling. Okay.
Yeah.
So at what point, when you came onto the internet, at what point did it come from, here's a way for me to avoid the rejection, to perhaps having a V8 moment that says, well, wait a minute. I think I can kind of adjust this and make something happen here.
I didn't have the V8 moment until after I had moderate success selling business opportunity stuff. So I'll give you the mercifully short version of it all. I had a client. So I started successfully selling credit card processing online. And by successfully, I mean I got like 10 customers or something. It wasn't anything by today's definition of success. It wasn't successful. But for me back then, I think I was like 26 or something, and I was thrilled. So I had this client, and I was able to see his sales volume every month because we were doing the credit card processing and send the statements out. So I called him and I was like, dude, what are you selling? You're doing really well. And he goes, well, man, I'm selling these little CD-ROMs that have all these reports on them. And if you buy the CD-ROM, you have the reprint rights to the whole CD-ROM, and you can resell all the reports and everything. And it even has the reprint rights to the letter that sells it. And I was like, oh, man, that's awesome. Will you teach me how to do that? And he says, sure. So he made me his affiliate. It never occurred to me that I could just pay $300 and, have the right to sell it all myself. He made me his affiliate and taught me how to do it. And this was spamming. That's what he taught me how to do. This was before it was illegal. It was just very hated. It was before the canned spam litigation and all that came out. So I learned how to do that, and I became a very unsuccessful spammer. Embarrassingly enough, on both counts. Number one, I was unsuccessful about it. Number two, I did it in the first place. But I started selling this thing, and it worked. And then I said, gosh, maybe I'll create my own thing, which is what I did. So I created a similar package. I sold it for $47 and started to sell it without spam. I built a real email address list. I actually placed advertising, and it was going pretty well. But unfortunately, I guess fortunately, really, in the long term, it caught the attention of the Federal Trade Commission, and they sued the hell out of me. And I settled with them and gave them everything I had, and the lesson learned. But from that is when the V8 moment came, which was, well, I got a choice now. I can go back to selling credit card machines because I had nothing at the time. I literally was totally wiped out. I went from having a little bit of money in the bank to being negative $100,000. I had to take a second mortgage out on the house and pay TV bills and all of that sort of unpleasantry. Plus, I was very embarrassed by the whole thing, as you could imagine. So I knew I had the choice to make, which was to quit and go back to selling credit card machines or selling cars or something, or really figure this stuff out. So I figured it out, and I cut my teeth in the real world of outside of marketing, so to speak, by selling pet products, dog training materials. And I had a book about parrots that I had ghostwritten on how to teach your parrot to talk, and that worked. And had one about Labradors and hummingbird feeding. Made some tutorials about PowerPoint and Photoshop. just really, when those things started to work, none of them were huge successes, but they each kind of added up to a little bit. And I realized, man, it doesn't take a lot to run these. If I just had lots of these, I could make some serious money. And I ended up doing just that. I created a dog business where it was about $1 million a year business, which for back then was great. And that was really the V8 moment. It was like, oh my gosh, this works for everything. This isn't just about stupid hype and get rich on the internet promises of selling, get rich on the internet promises. You can apply this to something as mundane as training your Dachshund. And it took off.
So do you think, obviously, I think to me that you had the advantage of getting it backwards, because there's a lot of folks that they have a passion about their product or their thing, or there's so many people out there that have a great solution, but unfortunately it's a solution to problems people don't know they have, right? And they try to figure out how to make marketing apply to their thing. And it looks like from the way that you came up into this, you developed the passion around the marketing, and the thing was really kind of more incidental to the whole process. That because you've like you said, sold everything from pet stuff that evolved. I know when you did the up to the project with the game. What was the
Neil Strauss.
Yeah. Neil Strauss. And so do you find that your ability to detach from the thing, and I know you've talked many times about the thing, it's important that the thing be a good thing and it be of value, but you seem to be been able to detach, especially with marketing and direct response and the things you do for clients, detach from the thing and really focus on the marketing. Do you see that that's a big downfall of a lot of people, is they are too attached to that thing that they're selling and then try to make marketing fit, and when it doesn't work, they blame the marketing rather than what it is that they're selling?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked it, because it gives me an opportunity to clarify a very damaging misconception for the people who make the misconception. It is never about the thing you're selling. Now, obviously, it should be excellent, but that's kind of one of those platitudes, like, of course it should be excellent. Why would you be selling something that wasn't any good? So, it's going to be excellent. You can't just do that anymore. It's not going to get you anywhere. And then the next thing is to say, well, then therefore it must be the marketing. And that's not actually right. The most important thing is the market, the people that the thing is going to be sold to. There must be an existing market of people who are intensely interested in getting the result that the thing promises and that the thing must deliver. So if without the focus on that first, all is lost. And sure, it's possible through millions, if not billions of dollars in advertising to make a market and to manufacture desire for a new type of thing. But, in our world, we look for a market first. We look for that hungry crowd, and then we find the perfect product for them. And if you do it that way, then the marketing really doesn't have to be that good. People say that, and it's nice of them to say it. They're like, oh, Kern's really good at marketing. I would counter by saying I'm okay at it. But what I'm really good at is finding what people want and then giving them exactly what they want. And that's, in my opinion, the major overlooked thing, is to focus on the people and what they want, the results. All marketing should be about that customer. It should be about the prospect. And all marketing should help that prospect and not push. And when you do that, they are pulled towards the solution you're offering.
Now, I know that you've helped a lot of people, get pretty dramatic results fairly quickly by having an eye for things that a lot of people miss. And so what you just said, I recognize that there's a lot of people that rather than finding a market and then creating something for that market, they create something and then they try to create a market for that thing. Do you have clients that come to you with that, and how easy is it for you to kind of steer them to the right path? That I know you have a great thing and it probably helps people if there's enough of them to help them, but here's maybe how we need to adjust this. Do people have, kickback that are kind of married to that thing that they created?
It's like trying to convince a child to eat the broccoli instead of the ice cream. It is not an easy job at all. So I won't work with them. I'll say, look, I mean, the product is fantastic, but there's really no market for it, and I'm not going to take your money and get you no results because that'll make us both unhappy and it's pointless. So sorry, I can't help you.
So it's probably a lot easier for you to create a track record that you've had when you're particular about who you're helping. You kind of make it easy for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, there's probably someone could likely go and sell a lot of, hey, if you have a product, I can make anyone buy it. But I don't think that would be particularly cool of them to do because I don't think that it's likely that you could do that. If the demand does not exist already intensely for the solution that you're providing, and if that market is not great in number and easy to reach, you have a very, very difficult uphill battle before you. And personally, I think there's so much opportunity out there. It's unnecessary to put yourself in that position. Yeah. So it's important not to think about the marketing, it's to think about the market. If you think market first, what they want, and then you find the solution for them, the marketing, the actual ads and stuff, they're relatively simple to create because if you've got it, then it's largely just demonstration of value. So you can avoid hype and promises altogether and just show them, hey, here's how this thing will help you. Try a little bit and see, and they try it, and then they say, okay, give me the rest, and you're good to go. That's always been my formula.
Yeah, well, I think that's important and at another level for consultants out there to understand that if they're banging their head against the wall, not providing results, then it's perhaps because they're picking people that have the wrong thing to sell. And so that's one of, I guess, the things that you're very, very good at is recognizing very quickly whether this thing has any legs or not. And if it doesn't, move on because there's way too many things that do have legs out there.
Exactly.
So you've been very transparent and people can see, exactly coming from Georgia, selling credit card machines, selling this, your resale rights product that, perhaps you didn't have enough criteria or fences around because, when you did get sued, it was clearly from what I've seen, not because of something you've done, but what other people did in your name out there, which is often confused, when people just look 2 inches deep on any issues. But
well, if I had never created it, it wouldn't have happened in the first place. So I'll take responsibility on that one. And, it was a valuable experience. Certainly would never want to go through it again, but I'm glad it happened. It forced me to learn how to do it the right way. If that had never happened, I would probably be one of those infomercial guys or something, and I don't want to be that, and I would very unlikely be able to help the people that I've helped because I would have never been forced to actually learn how to do it for real. I would have just be yet another person regurgitating stuff that they heard from other people who were regurgitating stuff.
Yeah, well, so obviously some people learn from those things. Some people just kind of curl up and go away when something like that happens, but you push through. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people wouldn't have said, well, that sucks. Well, I better keep going. Right. And so you came along in the early days of internet marketing. One of a few folks that are, would be considered pioneers of internet marketing. And at what point did you go, because, clearly it's not even debatable, I don't think. Did you go from being one of those guys that were pioneers to, I'm Frank Kern, man of consequence? That's the thing. You probably don't. Elvis never realized he was Elvis. Does Frank Kern realize you're Frank Kern? And at what point did you go from the guy that could walk out there and say, hey, I'm going to give you the state of the internet because nobody else is taken this job?
It was just I really don't know the answer to your question. I can tell you how State of the Internet got made is I felt there was some stuff that was missing in the community that I was serving at the time, which was the internet marketing community, quote unquote, which at that point was really leaning heavily towards the biz op stuff and, how to sell marketing information to people who want to buy marketing information. And, I just one day, out of the blue, just said, I'm going to shoot this. I'm going to call it the State of the Internet Address because I have nothing better to say. And I was almost tongue in cheek. And, no one really pointed and laughed. I said, okay, well, and they liked it. So I did it again and I did it again. And it just sort of evolved. It was never I never said, I'm going to be the president of the internet, which clearly I'm not the president of the internet, but that does go to show how powerful marketing and positioning can be, if even accidental.
Well, but you had to clearly see that after that first state of the internet, I mean, and I think that was probably the genesis of, people say, call it educational marketing, whatever, but I think that was the genesis of a tremendous amount of value just purely given out that, you and I share a fairly common background. I used to sell cable television door to door, if you can imagine, how fun that was. And I hated the rejection too. And so, I always say I hate selling, but I love making people want to buy. And I think that was the beginning of making people want to buy because of them seeing the value up front. Now, a lot of people have packaged that in different ways, but one thing I know immediately is after you did that, you had so many people trying to, emulating you and what you were doing from your catchphrases or whatever. And by the way, I think if our real president would end his speech with, but what the hell do I know? I think that right there is what hooked me, is you would go and talk about this stuff very matter-of-factly, so matter-of-factly, and this is this, and this is how this happens, and this is why this occurs. But what the hell do I know? What a great way to hedge. That was brilliant. I would love it if the president.
It's like a disclaimer. It's a very subtle disclaimer.
Yeah, I mean, but to me, if the real president, I would love to see a real State of the Union with them in, but what the hell do I know? So, but something caught fire right there, obviously, and I'm not saying that it's something that you orchestrated, but you certainly recognized it, and it's something that's worked very well for people. It's worked very well for me because I do hate selling, but I love making people want to buy, and I think that's kind of what you encapsulated there. You got a lot of feedback of, wow, this is such great information. What's the catch? Right? Because there was no catch at the time. So was that something that was purposely done, or is it something that you saw that was working and then you kind of evolved it into, your philosophy on the way that you sell? Because when people a lot of times think of internet marketing, they think of the, 5-mile long sales page with this is the greatest, best thing, loophole, ninja thing that's available for 10 more seconds, and you got to do this and that. And it's a very big, strong contrast to what you do. And, you even kind of let people know what you're doing to them while you're doing it to them, which is very unique, or was very unique when you unrolled that. So was that something I really want to get to? Was it something purposeful, or was it something that evolved as you saw the reaction and response to that?
Well, State of the Internet was purposeful from the standpoint that it was designed to create goodwill. So I believe that the amount of income you're going to generate in any market is directly proportional, among other things, to the amount of goodwill that you have in that marketplace. So what people fail to understand is you can sell without ever asking for an order. Now, obviously, people didn't go see the State of the Internet and immediately start giving me money. But what did happen was the next time I sent out an offer, I had helped them already through giving them State of the Internet and giving them actionable advice that they were more inclined to pay attention to the offer. So it's always conscious in that regard, but there was never like formulaic, okay, I'm going to create this, and then in 37 hours, I'm going to send this to everyone who watched it, and so forth. It's if you were to sort of take a snapshot of all the communications I sent to my marketplace over maybe the past 3 years, you would find that there's very little pattern to it other than regular, well, semi-regular publishing of just useful stuff, articles, and then offers to get more useful stuff that makes an offer at the end of the useful stuff. And it's all based on the principle of providing results in advance, which I learned, incidentally, when I did that work with Neil Strauss.
Right. Yeah. That was a perfect example. You gave them enough to make them come back and say, all right, well, I want more, I need to know more. And it's almost like you created an appetite. If you want to, you didn't necessarily create a market, but you created an appetite within that market.
Yeah, so Neil, there was an existing market of guys who could not meet girls, and people make fun of that market, but this was real. I mean, they were people who were very shy and had been unsuccessful with meeting girls and didn't know what to do. Your typical revenge of the nerds kind of guy, and Neil was able to help them. And when he retained me to build marketing for him, I said, well, why don't we just help them and get them to where they're meeting some girls and they're getting phone numbers and stuff and they're having good conversations, and eliminate the fear from this. And if we do it and it works for them in advance of us trying to sell them anything, then they're essentially going to ask us to sell them something, and we don't have to be pushy. So what happened was we would create a series of teleseminars, because this was a long time ago. It was before you could really do Google Hangouts and everything. And Neil would, on the very first teleseminar, he said, okay, here's how you go up and just say hello without freaking out and looking nervous and, being terrified like the people in the movies. And he gave them all these ideas and ways he could go up and start talking to girls and have a conversation. And everyone listened, and they said, okay, thanks. And then he goes, you guys, go out and do this, and let's meet next week for another teleseminar and tell me what happened. So, man, we met the following week, and I'm just behind the scenes writing the ads. I couldn't advise these guys on how to pick up girls if my life depended on it. That would be a combination right there, what not to do. But so he was very good at it, and they get on there, and they said the magic words, which was, thank you, what next? And that's what you want from any campaign. If you can create a situation where you're in a sales process and every piece of that campaign creates a thank you, what's next response from your viewer or listener or user or whatever, you really have something truly powerful on your hands, because it's kind of like, metaphorically, if you have someone who's very hungry and you give them a little dinner roll, and it's a very good dinner roll, they're only going to be hungrier, right? They're like, thank you, that was awesome. What else you got? And so if you keep doing that up to, 3 or 4 times, by the time you got to a little piece of cheese or something like that you're giving them, they're starving because their appetite has been so whetted. So that's the methodology I like to use, is pull instead of push. You make your marketing itself valuable to the end user. And when you do that, they come to you. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to use the hype. You don't have to bash them over the head, anything. Just demonstrate you can help them by actually helping them.
Right.
Novel concept.
Well, it was a novel concept because it was very contrarian to what a lot of people, and I'd say most people, were doing, and most marketing and sales experts would have suggested that you do. And that's also, I think, one of the things with your being able to position yourself in this marketplace, even though it was very transparent, where people could see the failures and, the obstacles that you had, but they still saw you, as Frank Kern and somewhat of an authority, an expert in marketing, because you had this contrarian way of doing this. And to take that to another layer, another level, is you are contrarian by claiming that authority because you didn't do what everybody else, was doing, or what a lot of sales and marketing, trainers would say, is you didn't go out there and pound your chest saying, I'm the expert. Listen to me. Look what I've done. Look at my credentials. Look at this. You did what I like to call, you were the educator and advocate for your prospects and your clients' success. And you gave them every reason in the world to call you the expert, to where you never had to call yourself the expert. I don't think I've ever seen you even come close to trying to convince anyone you're the expert. That's just something that's been given to you rather than you, saying yourself.
That's an important distinction, actually. And I think when people think of marketing and sales and they have any internal resistance about it, it's likely going to be one of two things. Number one is they say, well, I don't have the credentials. But yeah, I can do a good job. I'm really good at what I do, but I don't have the degree. No one has anointed me the expert. My favorite is I'm not famous like you, or whatever. And the truth of the matter is nobody cares. So, imagine if we were doing this interview right now and I was just talking about how great I am. Like, no one would want to listen to this. They'd be like, that guy is such a complete douche. He's the last person I ever want to hear again. So if if we take that as true, that no one wants to hear you talk about how great you are, just like you don't want to hear anyone else talk about how great they are, especially if you have a problem that needs solving, logic then dictates that your customers and prospects, the last thing they care about is you telling them how great you are. What they care about is actually being helped by you. So I like to, as cliched as it sounds, I like to let the results that I help customers and clients get in advance of asking them for money speak for themselves in regards to my qualification. Because in reality, I don't have a single qualification or credential to my name other than the stuff I do a good job. But I barely graduated high school, was thrown out of college, have zero real-world job experience outside of door-to-door credit card machine salesman and a very brief stint as a car salesman at an actual car lot, excluding used car lots, but a real one. And that's it. That's my entire resume of professional credibility. So I have, people think they don't have credentials. All right, well, try bad ones. try being sued by the Federal Trade Commission and, being thrown out of college for academic dismissal. So I had to develop that. And I'm glad I did have to develop that because it's infinitely easier to make the sale. I mean, imagine how great life is when every bit of your process, whether it's marketing and prospecting or closing a sale, is beneficial to the end user. There's really no such thing as rejection. It's not like people are going to get mad at you. No, sure, it's not everyone doesn't become a client and a customer, but it's practically unheard of for someone to go through any of that material and say, I'm mad at this person. They didn't help me. And that's good. That helps me. It helps me continue to do a better job and maintain enthusiasm for what I'm doing.
Right, and one of the ironies of you not calling yourself the expert and spending all this time trying to convince someone that you're the expert is that you give other people every reason in the world to call you the expert because you've been that educator and advocate for their success. You don't have to call yourself the expert, but one of the remarkable side effects is you created an army of people out there that shout to the rooftops that, man, Frank Kern is the expert. He is the authority. He is the dude when it comes to direct response and just very, very, very creative ways of selling things. Now, a lot of people, again, it's not something that may be purposeful, but you certainly had to quickly realize that, hey, I'm not saying I'm the expert, but a lot of people are recognizing me as the expert. And did you instantly see that as that's because of the way that I'm doing this? That's the way that I'm giving first. I'm creating value first.
Yeah, that is deliberately by design. And it's not, people, I've had the weirdest things, I've had people like analyze videos for hypnotic patterns. I have one video when I was in a car. This is classic, man. I had one video when I was in a car and the car was a Porsche Turbo, which I had for a little while. And I think I never got it over 30 miles per hour. And the cameraman was making fun of me while we were shooting the video. He was like, dude, how fast are we going right now? And I was going 15 miles per hour. So he shows the speedometer in the video and a portion of it, it'll show what radio station you're listening to in the little cluster of instruments where the speedometer is, and it'll also show you what song is playing. And I was listening to the public radio because I'm a dork, and it had on a fundraiser, and the fundraiser title said "Join Now." So there was this big to-do by some guy saying, I've exposed Kern for using subliminal advertising. He's flashing this "Join Now" stuff on the screen to control your mind and make you give them money, join now. So as if, that would work or something, which is really hilarious. So it wasn't by design in that way. It was by design in the sense that whenever I create something to publish, it usually has two goals. One, there's usually a next action I want someone to take. And the other goal is to just demonstrate I can help them. Because if I can help somebody get a result for free, they're going to keep coming back. It's like if you open a restaurant, the easiest way to build a huge following to your restaurant is to give away free lunch. Because the average person who eats at a restaurant and likes it's going to eat there like twice a week, habitually. So you only have to give them something free one time, and if it's good, they're going to keep coming back. And I base everything on that. So I would like to think that people are out there saying this guy's really good because I've genuinely helped them. That really is. I know it sounds cliche, but it really is the purpose of all of the marketing. Not only to sell and to build demand for the service, but to do so by actually being helpful.
It is. So you quite possibly, you could be responsible for those people at the mall shoving their toothpicks full of meat in my face, right?
I would like to take credit for that.
Well, I think, you might as well.
It worked.
Well, damn if I'm not eating bourbon chicken. That's what got me hooked on bourbon chicken. Here, taste my chicken. This is my chicken. They're providing value ahead of time. So that I think right there is the principle that a lot of people miss. They see what you're doing and see what you're talking about, and they get a lot of value on it. But there's a lot of times that you have to watch what you are doing from different levels, not just what you're talking about, but then the mechanics of how you're putting this stuff together. Because a lot of people, if they see you to speak in person, they think, wow, he's kind of loose. He doesn't seem like he has, knows what he wants to say. But you always get just some incredible information packed in there. And I think there's a lot of people that are sometimes very disappointed that you don't have something to sell. Do you get that where people are disappointed that wait a minute, damn it, I want to buy something. You can't do that to me.
I have gotten that. That's a good problem to have. Now, that is not something to imitate. That's bad business on my part, not to have something available at all times for people to buy. But yeah, I've got that. I'll tell you how to do it. It's easy. So, if everything I think comes down to understanding the market. So it's never about the product. It's assuming that we take as a given that the product is outstanding. It's never really about that. And it's never really about the marketing. It's always about the market and what their end result is and helping them get that result. So if anyone listening wants to figure this out, all you got to do is take a piece of paper and draw a horizontal line across it. And then on the left-hand side of the paper, draw a little frowny face. And on the right-hand side of the paper, draw a smiley face. That frowny face represents where your prospect is now in relation to the opposite side of the paper, the smiley face, which represents where he wants to be. And to get him from point A to point B is a journey which is going to require him doing some stuff. And this is true of just about any result we want to get. If we want to retire early, we have to make X, Y, Z type of investments, have this type of understanding of finance and interest, et cetera, and, learn how to manage money. If we want to find a level of life, we have to learn how to go up and say hello. We have to maintain an intelligent conversation where we don't look stupid. We have to get the phone number, and we have to ask them out on a date and do a good job on the date and not look stupid and embarrass ourselves or them, right? If you want to make money, you have to find a hungry market, find out what they want, develop a product, develop advertising, sell it. So everything kind of fits in that process. That if someone wants to get a result, it is logical that there is a sequence of actions they must take in order to get the result. So if you just take the time to sort of map out on that little timeline the top 4 things they have to do in order, and then make your marketing about helping them do those 4 things in advance of asking them for the sale, it's perfect. So if, let's say we have, I'll go back to Neil's example. That's the one I always use. If we give away a free report on how to meet women outside of bars and, here's how to meet a nice woman worth marrying or something, like free report tells all. And then they opt into the report and the report's good. Well, if we build our marketing campaign to those people to the very first thing, be an educational piece, and all right, man, here are 5 ways you can go up, even if you're nervous and terrified, to say hello to the most beautiful woman in the room without looking like a stalker or a weirdo, and actually have her say hello back and smile at you. Okay, let's say the guy does that. Well, now he's thrilled. He's like, I can't believe that worked. Holy crap. So then the next piece in the marketing is we'll take him through the next, I call them milestones. The next milestone of what it is he needs to do to get the result. So in this case, here's how to have a conversation that entertains her and engages her and causes her to think this is a pretty nice person. Obviously helps if you really are a nice person, of course. So he gets that marketing piece, he reads it, he does what you say, he's thrilled. By the time you get to, hey, if you really want to learn how to do this, you can invest in that course on how to actually, meet the love of your life, et cetera. It doesn't require tremendous virtuosity in selling. So anyone can deploy this. If you're a CPA, you can do it. CPAs almost always do it anyway. CPAs and professionals, they do it by the free consultation. But it's rarely structured in a way that can be scaled and duplicated.
Right. Yeah, that's the tough part for sure. So, okay, let's bring this home. I think it's clear that the things that you've done, and there's so many people that have been successful with implementing the tactics if they just get out of their own way and understand the simplicity of the principles there. So before we wrap it up, I want to go back to and put a little bit of a spotlight on what you said earlier with the folks that come and say, yeah, but I'm not famous like you. And, that feel that they have to have these special credentials. And, one thing that I think, a perfect analogy for this that's always made me wonder, and I wanted to see this happen is, like with stage hypnotists. You see the guys that get on stage and do the whole sleep, act like a chicken thing, right? And I've always wondered, how do those guys do it the first time, right? Because I don't think there's like an open mic or anything for stage hypnotists. They just at some point have to say, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to convince somebody I can do this, and they go and do it, right? There is no credentials that get you there. And to a lot of people, that's a huge leap. They can't jump that canyon of, but you're famous, I'm not. But you weren't born famous, right? And so,
no, I had disadvantages. It's like people say I don't have these credentials and fame. It's like, well, gosh, at least you haven't gone through a public lawsuit where you're essentially declared a terrible person by the United States government. So I don't really want to hear it. Get out there and help some people.
So that's it. I mean, is that what the secret sauce and the simplicity is, stop thinking about it. Stop thinking you got to do all this stuff first, before the terrible habit of getting ready to get ready, and just go do what you do, and let it, and let it grow and let it take a hold.
Well, and to do so strategically, there is certainly an order in which things can be done. So first of all, like I'll probably be saying until the end of my days, they don't care about us. No one cares if you're famous. I mean, sure, it'll give you an advantage, but certainly not. A lack of fame will definitely not prohibit you from making sales or doing business. So don't even try to think about it. Just get out there and help people. So the first step is to A, make absolutely sure you really can help the end user. Everything hinges on that. B, find out that very first result that they need to get in their timeline and publish something for free that helps them do that, and give that away in exchange for permission to contact them again with other stuff that helps them. And if you make everything about demonstrating you can help them by actually helping them, you're doing pretty good. I'll give you an example. Before, my wife, Natalia, she is a fitness model and very, very successful, and has been on lots of covers of like Oxygen magazine and all these women's magazines and stuff, which is great. And she built a following online by offering a workout manual just for free. She created this 113-page, maybe it's 170. So it was a very large manual on how to do all of these god-awful, terrible exercises, that keep you in shape and everything. And she just published it. Here you go. Bikini cover model and mother of 4 gives away free workout manual for busy women or something was the headline. And she got people on it, but she never had a product at that point to sell. So all she did, this was literally the funnel, is she sent them the manual, and then she would follow up with videos that showed them how to do stuff in the manual. Here's how to do the Spanish Inquisition abdominal torture exercise, etc. And then she would send them an email that says, do you need some help getting in shape? That was the email. And they would reply and say yes. And she would write them back and say, okay, well, I set aside some time to work with a handful of ladies and give you some custom nutrition planning and walk you through exactly what to do based on your objectives. Is that something you're interested in? And some would write back and say, well, as a matter of fact, that sounds great. How much is it? She would say, it's $400. And they'd say, okay, here you go. And the very first time she did that, she got, I can't remember, she made something like $4 or $5 grand doing it just in a week. Just, no pushy sales process, no 9 million page letter, nothing. Just genuinely helping people and then offering to help them some more. So there's no need at all to complicate things. There's no need at all to pound your chest and, make yourself out like you're some amazing person. It's much easier to let the results you provide in advance do all the talking for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the ultimate outcome of that is by not spending your time trying to convince people you're an amazing person, you let other people see and recognize you as that amazing person, and that spreads much, much faster.
Well, it's the intrinsic or implicit decision versus external. So we have two ways to process information. We can make a decision on our own, which I call an internal decision. So if you just wake up, you try some Kentucky Fried Chicken, you say it's the best chicken ever, that's an internal decision. If I call you up and I say, Jack, here are 500 reasons why Kentucky Fried Chicken is the best chicken ever, and it's amazing, and you say, well, God, sounds good, okay, I'm going to adopt this belief. That is an external decision. The most powerful decision someone can make is internal. So if you cause someone, by demonstrating to them that you are good, if you cause them to internally decide on their own that you're awesome, they will adopt that belief and even defend it. So that's what you want to do. You want to create situations which causes your prospect to decide for herself that, man, this is awesome. I like this. And when you do it, immediately you eliminate the need for puffery, to use a fancy term, in advertising. Then you can literally send them an email and say, hey, do you need some help? I've put aside some time to help the folks if you want some. And that actually works.
I think it all goes back to the principles when my mother used to tell me, don't walk through the field on the way to school because the bad kids will try to get you to try drugs because then you'll just keep coming back for more. They're going to give it.
Yeah. Like, what are kids hanging out in the field? Hey, turn left by the 75th row of corn here.
Yeah, that's it.
The drugs for you, young Jack.
But unfortunately, none of the pushers were clever enough to know that principle. None of one of them were going to give you something for free, I don't think.
Good.
Yeah, of course. So, that's it. It really is. It's far less difficult. There's far less friction doing it this way that you do it. And I think it's a way that a lot of people, because I'm always convinced that there's people out there that call themselves the expert because they're told they have to be convince people of the expert that aren't convinced themselves that they're the expert. So it's a disconnect there, and they'll never be able to, have the confidence to be able to do that. So clearly you have stuff out there. How can people find it? Where can people taste the sauce? Get the Frank Kern chicken on the stick so they're hooked, because you're clearly transparent that that's what you do. How can they do that?
Well, at the time we're recording this, they can go to frankkern.com, and if you opt in, you'll get a PDF from me, which invites you to participate in a consulting group, which is full. So please don't participate in the consulting group, but you will then be on my list, and you will eventually get some stuff from me, which will be good. And if you like it, you can pay attention to more. And when I have something to offer, you can buy it if you want to.
Well, it's as simple as that. Frank Kern.
Pretty hard pitch right there. Yeah, they should have me on infomercials.
I think it would. It would be much easier to watch that stuff. Although I can't stop. It's like a cultural train wreck on some of these. I don't want to look, but I have to sometimes. Well, perfect. Frank Kern, Dr. Frank Kern, attorney at law, chief NASA. I think Avon was in there at some point, wasn't it?
We should have included in the beginning to clearly illustrate that it's all made up, which is my other title, which is Guinness Book of World Records record holder for the most fake titles ever used during a marketing conversation.
Indisputable.
Indisputably, yeah. It says so right there in the interview. It must be true.
Boy, that's a whole nother story, isn't it? Yeah. Very good. Frank, I got to say, you truly are an influencer. I think that's without saying. So I want to thank you very much for coming on to Influencers Radio, sharing this stuff. And it's something that I think everyone is going to listen to and think, golly, that makes so much sense. And just do it. Put down the pen, stop with the 3-mile-long sales letter, and deliver value, and understand that you have to have a market to deliver that value to for it to ever turn into anything real. So thank you so much for coming and clearing that up, because we do think of you as president of the internet. I think a lot of people do, whether you claim that or not. But what the hell do I know?
What the hell do I know? Exactly right. That's a good sign off.
Yeah.
Doing it at the end of my letters.
It is. You need the T-shirt. For that. All right. Well, fantastic. Frank, thanks so much for coming on. Truly appreciate it, and look forward to more of what you have to come.
Okay. Thanks, man.
All right. Well, fantastic. Folks, there it is. check it out, frankkern.com. Go there and actually don't go there, Frank says, or don't participate in what he has. But I'm sure soon enough you'll find a way to participate. So until next time, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.